ensayas rápido, no sabes poner pie. Lo ensayas rápido, no sabes poner pie.
Welcome to Civil Discourse Now. I'm Mark Small.
I'm Paul Ogden.
This is August 4th, 2012. We are streaming live to you from Indianapolis, Indiana. Broad Ripple, to be precise.
Civil Discourse Now. Civil Discourse Now is a show where we try to discuss civilly issues related to local, state, national, and international politics.
And social issues, too. The last 2 weeks, the show was at the Indianapolis International Film Festival.
Very interesting experience.
It was
Mark.
fun, too.
Yes, it was.
Today, we're going to be discussing labor problems that exist here in Indianapolis, specific to hotel workers. And our guest is Fernando Gomez, and we'll be getting to him in the next three segments. But the first segment, like we've been doing the last 2 months, is a segment we call What's Going On, where we just kind of discuss general topics of interest in the news. First is the mayor's office.
A mayor's office, they received his staff received rather large salary increases, some of them up to 31% increase. I think part of it was triggered by a new deputy mayor who was in charge of education issues, who supposedly there was a bidding war going on with Chicago, and his salary was 120 grand. So they raised the other deputy mayors from 90 to 120. They raised a number of people on the staff.
Okay. Let me get this straight. They were in a bidding war for the person who's in charge of education for the mayor's office.
Correct.
The mayor's office really doesn't have control of education in Marion County. Am I right?
Except for charter schools.
Except for charter schools.
Right.
Those are kind of like private things set up for
they're
contracts.
Public schools, they are freed from many of the same restrictions that apply to other restrictions that apply to traditional public schools.
Okay.
It's a form of public school.
So they created this system for charter schools. Indianapolis didn't want to lose this guy, supposedly, so they gave him more money and had to give everybody else more money.
I can only assume that's why they decided to give Ryan Vaughn, who's been a guest on our show, former council president, more money. But they increased everyone's salary. One employee got a bump of 31%. Communication director, which I'm not sure. Someone asked, why do you need a communication director when you have people? That's what they do. That's what a politician does, is communicate. He got a raise from $95,000 to $105,000 a year. And I've commented on various blogs and on the Indianapolis Star that why pay someone $105,000 when if he went to the private sector he'd be worth maybe $35,000.
Well, because it's the government of Indianapolis. Our city government functions a certain way.
Unfortunately, and it's important to point out the timing was bad because they're talking about cuts to the public safety budget, police officers, firemen, firefighters, that sort of thing. At the same time, the mayor's going to ask for that. He's cutting back on the public safety budget.
Which is why they need to pay more to this communications person so that we will get the message that we shouldn't have to worry about that.
Exactly. You got the baseball thing in there, Mark?
Shut up.
Right.
The next one is the Indiana State Fair just opened. So if anybody's interested in, I had some excellent ribs down there. They're almost as good as mine.
Do you see the world's biggest pig?
No, done that before.
Okay.
But they had excellent corn on the cob. It was very hot yesterday, but the Indiana State Fair is a very, very, very good state fair, like the song goes. It's just kind of, but if you like a lot of fat-laden foods and walk around and sweat.
As I said, I haven't been there in about 25 years, probably.
You said last night you've never been.
I'm not sure I have been. I think I have been one time, but briefly.
And you say you're a Hoosier.
I know.
The Olympics are on. I was watching this event called Team Handball. I didn't know they
really?
had team handball. Apparently, Iceland and Sweden are like world powers in team handball, and it's like a combination between hockey, soccer, and basketball. Only the ball's about this big, and they throw it into the goal.
Oh, I want to watch that. Let me know next time it's on.
Well, you have to go to MSNBC to watch it.
Oh, yeah, I don't have that anymore.
I doubt that you ever did.
No, it doesn't come in on my TV. But important to note that the gymnast from the United States won the gold medal, African-American young lady. And
Both individual and team. And it's the
Individual
first time
team.
first time somebody from the United States has
Wow.
done that.
it's amazing. So, how are we doing on the medal count? I say we, the United States. I should
Well,
say.
it's not. It's a corporate medal count. I don't know. The last time I saw last night, we were in first place. So China was in second place. The Soviet Union used to always be up there in the rankings, and I didn't see them any place.
Yeah, Soviet Union. They just don't do very well anymore.
No, they don't. In some of the best things are yet to come. Like I don't think they've done the walking race.
I should point out we're going to get letters on the Soviet Union. We are aware the Soviet Union does not exist anymore. Just in case we get letters.
It doesn't.
No. The
You're
the
kidding.
walking race.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Oh,
No.
the walking race. It's where everybody looks real weird when they're. That's
so funny.
go out and do it. It's tough.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And, I mean, that's just in probably the most difficult race of the Olympics is the 400 meters because that's one long sprint. So,
Oh yeah.
another item of issue. Are we done with the Olympics?
I believe so.
Well, although a point was made the other day that United States Olympic athletes are being taxed on what they make because I guess if you win a gold medal you get like $30,000.
You do?
Yeah, I did, and it's supposed to be amateur sports. That's why Jim Thorpe was
was
never
aware.
allowed to keep
Right.
his medals. So it's like, okay, they make $30,000, and they said, well, then they're being taxed for it. It's income. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I understand. I didn't know they got any money on that.
Yeah, and in addition to the endorsements and the commercials and everything, it's like, okay, so they're taxed. I don't see a problem with that. Also this week, Joe Donnelly is running against Richard Murdoch for.
And he was last week too.
Yeah, I know, but this week they announced they've been doing polling, and we don't see as many polls as we used to. I think
Right.
because the expense of polling is rather high, and so the polls this week, or the one that I saw was with Rasmussen, showed that Murdoch had a 2% lead.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. We're not even to Labor Day, so we have a long period of time. There'll be a lot of ads run between Labor Day and the general election.
Yeah, but just a couple of things on that. It's like, this is a traditionally Republican state, and Murdoch beat Richard Lugar in the primary, so you have the incumbent all of a sudden losing, and you have Murdoch who's a challenger who has rather extreme views.
According to you.
Extreme views, like he compared. Never mind that. We won't bring in the comparisons he did this week, but for him to have only a 2% lead with a margin of error of plus or minus 5% means it's kind of a dead heat at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
And especially if that's traditionally pulled more heavily amongst Republicans. Rasmussen has.
Well, they do on the tracking poll, it appears. The tracking polls, if you look at in the national elections, almost all of them have Obama ahead. Rasmussen has had Romney ahead at times, and it has them up like 3 or 4 points, when everybody else says Obama's ahead by 2 to 6 points. So, and I didn't look to see whether Rasmussen polls more Republicans than Democrats or what's going on there, but it does appear to lean Republican. That poll.
So if it does lean more Republican and there's a plus or minus 5% error, actually it's a dead heat or Donnelly's a little bit ahead.
Well, I think a dead heat is a good description of it, but it's a traditionally Republican state, and when people go to vote, getting Republicans to switch over is difficult. And I saw Jim Shello said this proves what the Democrats were confident about. They wanted to run against Murdoch instead of Lugar. I don't think it's quite that simple because Lugar had flaws himself, and I think the Democrats could have exploited those flaws. The fact he didn't live here in Indiana was a big flaw.
That hurt, but
yes.
I thought it was Murdoch, like Mordor. And
Yeah,
anyways,
I know you keep saying that.
So we're sitting here right now. Your opinion, my opinion, they're meaningless in the grand scheme of things. At this point, who do you see winning in the fall?
Oh, I think Murdoch will win. I think he's got to be the favorite to Republican state. For Donnelly to win, he's got to get Republicans to go pull that lever for him, and I think it's highly unlikely that. I'd say highly unlikely. I mean, I think he maybe has a 30% chance. So,
okay, so
you got to make him an underdog in a Republican state. So, I don't think he's quite the candidate John Gregg is, and John Gregg's not really seems to be getting much traction right now. John Gregg, of course, the candidate for governor against Mike Pence,
and also against Rupert.
Rupert, correct.
And so Rupert's a libertarian, and I met Rupert yesterday at the state fair.
Yeah.
That's walking around doing a lot of things. Plus, I saw a whole bunch of demonstrations for cookware and how you could make a whole bunch of different food in different ways and cheaply and all that sorts of stuff like that. Finally, you want to talk about
baseball. Exactly. The Cincinnati Reds, the best team in Major League Baseball right now, has won 21 of their last 25 games, including beating Pittsburgh last night to put them 4.5 games. Pittsburgh keeps winning. They should be ahead Reds should be ahead by about 20 games, but Pittsburgh continues to win. So, anyway, how the Cubs are doing?
The Cubs this week were able to trade one of their best pitchers remaining, and we are in a rebuilding year.
I thought they got rid of Soriano.
No. Soriano's still in left field.
It's a shame.
So tell me about it. But the thing that I found interesting this week was that I read an item that the owners of the Miami Marlins had wanted a new ballpark.
It's Florida Marlins.
No, they changed to Miami.
They did?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that.
You don't read the newspaper.
Apparently not.
Not the sports section. So, anyways,
Miami Marlins.
as part of the deal, because they said they were strapped for cash and what they were going to do with the money that they got by having this ballpark built for them, they get all the revenue for it, they get all the concessions, all of that. What they would do is be able to plow more money into the team. And so they moved into the ballpark this season, and what did they promptly do? They started a fire sale on all their high salaried players.
I don't understand why they don't draw better. That community has a lot of Cuban Americans in it. Baseball is very popular in Cuba. I don't know why they don't draw better.
Well, for one thing, right now they suck.
Yeah.
For another thing,
Cubs still draw.
oh, Jesus, we're talking about civil discourse. But it's also, I think it's a kind of a dome stadium, retractable now, and it gets hot down there. It's uncomfortable to watch a ball game in heat like that. We're at the end of the first segment. Unfortunately, the Reds are in first place, but we'll be right back.